and in this space surrounded by, the things that came before us, if we could just take a couple of moments to, nice big inhale, and kind of settle in. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you guys for being here. I'll kind of pass the buck on to you.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody.
Wait.
Thank you for
He
coming.
wants you to speak into the mic.
Right.
For the YouTubers.
Welcome, everybody, here and on the interwebs. My name is Rob Cliver. I'm a professor at the university, history professor, and a member of the board of the Humboldt County Historical Society. So I want to thank our partners, the Clark Museum and the Humboldt County Library, for helping us host these Saturday events. I think it's particularly appropriate, since February is Black Heritage Month, that today's speakers are from Black Humboldt. Taikisha Leshke and Mo Harper Desir are our speakers. They're going to be talking about Black histories and futures. Thanks very much, both of you, for being here.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mo Harper Desir. I use she, they pronouns. We're very happy to join on Wiyot land on the 6th day of Black History Month. It is a privilege. Today we're going to talk about lineage, lived reality, and a liberated future. I do want to press it that Ty and myself are 0.002% of our own Black experience and do not represent a monolith of what every Black person has experienced nor will experience, and we'll only be sharing things from our own perspective and in our own line of building locally and in other areas. And yeah, we'll start with just a little bit of who Black Humboldt is, and then we do have a little curated conversation between the two of us. Yeah, Black Humboldt, we are no longer a volunteer-run organization as of 2 months ago, so we love that for us. But we were, before that, volunteer-run for 8 years. Meaning just that the steam and passion of the Black and Brown community were pushing forward this program and its projects. And, we're rooted in community power. We are organized as a worker-owned nonprofit and operate with an open door policy, meaning that we really encourage the community we serve to influence the work we produce. All of our team is also self-identified as Black or Brown or from within the African diaspora, so that also really helps us shape our programming because, again, the people we serve are at the table. What else does this say? I think we can go to the next one. We created Black Humboldt at its core for joy and connection. Myself and my sister in Seoul, Diana and Lovu, met in a sauna over conversation of how isolated we were feeling without any local representation of our arts or culture, really struggling to meet other Black community, just really not seeing any blueprint or footprints of the community we wanted to be a part of. We both come from the East Coast, very diverse inner cities. We're both children of immigrants, and so it was really startling to not see myself anywhere. And we decided to gather folks socially. And in those first couple of meetings, we really heard a story that everyone was sharing of this isolation and not being able to find things for us. And so that became kind of our blueprint of holding exclusive spaces where we were inviting folks that self-identified as Black or Brown or from within the African diaspora, which just means they can trace their lineage back to Africa, which includes a lot of countries around the world. And that was really tough. It was really hard for the community to hear that there was this new thing that they couldn't attend. And so we definitely dealt with a lot of criticism, a lot of harsh questions and rude behavior. But I'm very happy that we stuck with it because here we are quite a bit of time later to find that this was indeed a necessary tactic that we needed for our own survival. We started in 2018. So we can go to the next one. And so since that beginning and now, we kind of reaffirm our mission statement every year with our team. But our mission is to enlighten, empower, and entertain our Black and Brown community of the Redwood region through events and initiatives made for us, by us. And so the for us, by us is a term that has long history in the Black community, very much so in like street and hip hop, Black community. And it just means like we're making it and it's for us. And if you find yourself discentered or reactionary to that, it's not about us, or it's not, that's a you problem. And that's something that we've wanted to maintain as well. Like, it's for us, it's by us, period. And let's see what the next one says. Okay, so these are some of our events. So like I mentioned, we started with a monthly mixer. We still keep that tradition live. But since we have done lots of things, so another initiative that came quickly after our inception was a Black and Brown business directory, because that was kind of some of the main conversation folks were having in our mixers was like, who does your hair? Where do you grocery shop? Where do you eat? Is there a local Black beautician I can see? And so we started compiling a Black business directory. It's since grown to include local healthcare providers, artists, professionals, and it started very short, and it's pretty big now, which is great, right? It also speaks to how Black communities are coming here and starting things here and staying here, which was not the case, 9 years ago. Something that started after that very closely was an initiative we called Arts for Black and Brown Bodies. Deanna and myself are artists by trade and through school and the paths we've chosen, and so it only was right that this arts program was one of our first major programs, and the idea was to pay Black and Brown artists to procure their art locally, and especially to put like BIPOC bodies into art spaces they weren't typically attributed to. And so we did a lot of play reads, we did dance classes, yoga, but really trying to separate that Black art equals this and non-Black art equals this, and setting the stage for that. And since our art initiatives have expanded, but that was kind of the premise that started that, with both of us having theater backgrounds and that being surprising to people as we met them. And then let's see what else. We brought Juneteenth to Humboldt County for the first time ever in 2019, which was another culture shock thing for Deanna and I, because we grew up going to Juneteenth parades, festivals, and a lot of the community here was like, what is that? And this was before it became a federal holiday, and that was at Sequoia Park. And so we have since hosted it every year. The city of Eureka has been a great collaborator on that, in donating whatever park or spaces we want to use to make sure we can have this festival every year. And it is more than just celebration. It's been a really great opportunity to host Black history workshops. We've brought people from out of the area to come and join the community. And it's also been a great economic booster for Black and Brown businesses, with us, reusing most of the money we fundraise to pay the artists who are performing. It's free to vend, and we cover everyone's like insurance and their Department of Health fees, and so it really is an opportunity for Black and Brown businesses to make some good money, and then platform themselves. And a lot of steam goes into that every year, and so this will be our first year where we have staff dedicated to this event, which will also is pretty impressive to think about how volunteers have been putting on a multi-day festival in downtown Eureka for a few years. What else? Maybe something new in the last couple of years has been We have a cultural innovators cohort where 5 leaders from the community spend 2 years with Black Humboldt, and we read books together, and we go to conferences together, and we shape new programming, expand our collaborations. And Taikisha is actually one of the first cohorts, and in her second year.
Yes.
So I don't know if you want to share a little bit about that
Hi.
and
Yes.
about yourself.
My name is Taikisha. I have lived in Humboldt County since 1999. I have worked in the community and with the community since about then, since I've gotten here. I'm currently the collective builder with Black Humboldt. It's been an amazing experience. We're learning side by side, working side by side, essentially just doing the things that we normally do, but we're doing it together, which is also very amazing. Learning a lot of things, teaching a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it will continue to change. And so, like many of our initiatives, they are happening while we're building them. And so, this cohort looks nothing like the last cohort, and is going to look nothing like the next
one.
So, we kind of love that, but also that can be nerve-wracking, especially for folks that are getting involved. And let's see what's on the next slide, because maybe we'll pivot. Oh yeah, we did start, very important.
Oh, this one's important. Yeah, so we did start what we call the Care and Mutual Aid. We have been, so in the office, we do have things that people can come and get if they need. Bus passes, gift cards for Winco, diapers, wipes, just anything that any kind of, anybody in the community could use or need. And if we don't have it, take away bags of food. We had a clothing closet. We had essentially an area where you could shop and just get like essential things that one person might need. And it was amazing. We served a lot of people that day. And so we're currently trying to have that be something that we do once a month. Just as a better way to serve the community, which is what we love to do.
Yeah, and I would say like a lot of things come and go, meaning individual projects. Some things start up as one thing and transform into another. We do a lot of giveaways, so this kind of fits in. We do back to school kits every year. We do a holiday gift program where we deliver hot food and gifts to individuals that might have been estranged from their families or don't have the funds to travel back home for the holidays. Maybe they go to school here. But the idea is that we could create some home for you on the holidays, the winter holiday season, if you don't have anyone to be with. And I think that's a lot of the core of our work is this idea of recreating the village that, the current dominant culture of our country wants so badly for us to be individuals and to be struggling individually when life gets so much easier when you start doing it together.
Yes.
And you start sharing the load and the responsibility. And so I think that's kind of a basis. I mean, you find that in most indigenous communities, right? That they live intergenerationally, that they all contribute to some way. And unfortunately, here in our society, that's something that's been demonized. But I think it's very much something we're trying to reclaim at Black Humboldt. And I don't know if anyone had any organizational questions for Black Humboldt before we move on to our conversation.
How do you get your food and stuff that you distribute?
So Food for People has this great program that if you're a nonprofit, you can pay 19 cents a pound for food items. And you can only shop, I think, like once a month or twice a month. They do have the limits, but we're able to go in there and shop. Basically, we spend the money that we earn through donations and grants and purchase it for other folks.
Do you guys take any kind of donations like clothes or blankets, anything like that for your distribution stuff?
We do, and we're still trying to figure it out because there's always tends to be more donations than there are people that need it. And we unfortunately are still very grassroots in our office space and our storage abilities. So we are trying to figure
Yes.
that out for the best way to get it to where it needs to go. But we do take things like that, especially like, I think it just needs to be narrowed in. So like it's cold, so we probably would love to take blankets and jackets and maybe not everything else, but we're trying to figure it out.
Socks, gloves, scarves, hats, umbrellas.
That's a good one. We will always take umbrellas.
Is and the people that do the service, is it just the people within Black Humboldt that volunteer for that, or do you have outside volunteers?
This is an event that volunteers have shown up for, which has been tremendous and great, especially. We definitely
always-
welcome volunteers at any point, yeah. And then I think I saw you had something?
Are you politically involved at all? Do you lobby with our Huffman, our representative? I know you've gotten things from the council to benefit you, but.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that the council loves to hand out pieces of paper that say things, and that's it. Although they are great listeners, they're always down for conversation. I appreciate lots of our supervisors, but proclamations, unfortunately, only go so far. But we actually are very strict that we are not politically affiliated. We do not do social justice work. We are not a DEIA or equity organization. We simply exist to cherish our Black and brown community and create spaces for them to flourish. But I will add that we recognize that the life of a Black person is political, and social justice often revolves around the experiences of like Black, Indigenous, people of color, queer people. So even though our organization is not focused there, those are all Venn diagrams within the conversations we're having. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, where is your location? Where could we find you?
Yeah, we live right here in Eureka at 39 Fifth Street. So right over there.
Yeah,
Great.
if you go on our website, we also have a phone number. So if you know, if you wanted to drop something off or needed something to be picked up, you can call and we can come pick it up.
Another question. Have you ever given your presentation to the ALMI program? That would put it out in the community a lot more too. I didn't know whether you have done that or not. They have a free brown bag on Monday.
Yes, I am familiar with Ollie. I don't think we've done a lot of things like this solely because our builders have always been a volunteer. And so it was kind of like, if you want to go give that talk, then like, yes, please go do that. But oftentimes there has not been capacity for that in the past, but perhaps now that we have staff, that could be something we find out more about. All right, we're gonna move on. We'll have more time later. And I'm like, y'all gotta hear from Taikisha. I've been talking too much. So something we brought as a question is, when you say Black history, whose stories are you carrying into this room, and how do those stories shape your decisions today?
So a little history about me. I grew up in the mountains. I grew up in a little tiny town where I was the only Black person growing up. So that question is enormous for me for a number of reasons. I feel like as I was growing up in a little tiny town, it was like, it was almost like for me, I didn't know what I was missing because I didn't know that I was missing it. My mom grew her own food. She was a farmer of many things. And I feel like I had to get away from my little tiny town to really start realizing like who I am as a Black person living in this world and as a Black woman living in this world. And I still feel like I'm still learning a lot because there's still so much to learn.
Yeah, I think for me, just being a young person, I didn't think about history much. I was first generation, so growing up, I felt very immersed in my country. I'm from the Caribbean. I'm interracial. My mom is, her parents are from Ireland and Canada. And so I felt like I traveled a lot when I was younger. We would go to the Caribbean every summer. Like, I never really thought too much about where I came from because I felt like I was seeing it in real time. But as I got older and started learning about history or having more like media consumption, I really started to think about courage a lot and bravery and not necessarily connecting like knowledge to the triumphs of like say Black revolutionaries or I actually went to an elementary school for a while where I was the only Black kid, me and my brother, and we did a story called Follow the Drinking Gourd, and I played the slave because who else would I be? But I thought about that all the time of like how fearful I would have been in that moment in like real time. And I'm 8 years old, so I'm not like, this is wrong. I was more like, wow, like somebody like me did this. And so I think every time I'm building something or talking about experience or like encouraging folks to do similar work I do, I think about courage and bravery and like being okay with maybe not knowing how you're gonna do it or having all the answers, because or maybe we can combine these two. It's asking also about like erased history. So yeah, what part of history is often erased? What is most urgent for Humboldt right now in all of this? And what could change if we recenter history? I think we'll let Ty ponder, but something I noticed when I moved here is that it feels socially like we're in the past here, if that makes sense. Like, I'm like, 2008 here was different than 2008 where I come from, like a warp almost. So I think there is that urgency of like seeing oneself for Humboldt in general, of like coming to terms that I think the statistic is like less than 2% of the population here is Black, and about 19% is Indigenous or people of color. And so just looking at those demographics alone, it's easy to assume like often how voices aren't included. And it might not be on purpose, but it might be just because you don't know everybody, right? And if there's only 2% of us to know in the first place, like the likelihood, y'all know math. And so I think also that happens to erase history. Something one of our builders has been doing is like digging out the archive of Blackness in Humboldt. And there's so many cool stuff that was going on, not some cool stuff too, but lots of cool stuff was happening here, but it took someone like digging through books and records to find it rather than a display here at the Clark Museum, right? Or at the library. And so I think the only thing we'll gain if we start to dig up some missing history and center it is more stories of our area. Or there's like the Bay program going on where they're gathering stories from the Bay, and so it will be interesting to see if they're able to also like uncover some of those stories. Because if it's happening for like the whole country, that we're learning new things of history, there's certainly that same thing for us here locally.
I was just gonna, that was so good, how can I follow that?
Oh my gosh.
I was gonna say, just recognition, right? I mean, like most just said, I mean, 2-3% of the population get to know us, find out what we do, find out what we think, you know, what are we doing? You know, we do so much stuff in the community. So many events, so many, you know, so much stuff is going on. I think that Mo is correct in saying that, like, going at such a slow pace, you know, it's just like catch up, see what we're doing, see what we want to do, see where, you know, where you can get in there, be an ally, be a support right now.
Yeah, and I think that's a great segue. We'll miss this question because this one feeds into it, where it says, what does Black Humboldt do differently than traditional institutions, and why does that matter for long-term liberation?
What do we do? I mean, I think having exclusive spaces is super important for a number of reasons. And I think even now people, there's still question on why is that important? Yeah.
Yeah, I think something else we did too was, or something that has existed for a long while, has always been this way of like, this is what we need. We could go through this shortcut to get there, and then it could be gone once we use it all up. Or we could take this really long path, and it's actually a little bit emotionally intense, and it's gonna take us a while to get there, but it always happens that way for the best. And I think some of that looks like really taking the time to like collaborate with people that we know, and that we feel safe with, and that we feel our name is in good standing if we are not in that room, so to speak. They know us well enough that they could speak on our behalf. And same thing when we were first getting started and we were like, oh, we should get grants for this. And someone was like, yeah, make your services for all people of color, Black, Indigenous people of color. And our group said, we'll figure it out, actually, because we want to maintain the centering of Black and brown. And if that means we have to talk to 10 more stores to try to get a space donation, then so be it. And I vividly remember that retreat where we were like, no, it doesn't mean that they won't also benefit from the things we do for our community, but we're gonna maintain this like center and be okay with that. And now in hindsight, it's so necessary, right? And it's like, we often get lumped into this acronym where everything those people need is something different. And so it's like, and like anti-Blackness makes us be like, we can't do this. We can't have exclusive spaces. And then like finding liberation in that is like, actually we can. We can do anything we want to do. Mm-hmm. There's actually no rules.
And should. And should.
Little did you know, there's no rules. They're all socially constructed. Like, it's not real. And I think that was also a main core thing for us that's different, is that we are actively trying to dismantle white supremacy culture and what that looks like in nonprofit space, grassroots organizing space, and often that's asking the question, says who, right? Or perpetuating uneven power structures or whatever, or not to use you as an example, but this, like the proclamations, like we should be so thankful that we get proclamations, but in truth and matter, it actually doesn't really do anything. Representation is amazing, but it only, we've already done that for ourselves. And so I think that's something too we do non-traditionally is kind of stand up for ourselves and maintaining that like decolonized view of self-organizing, because that is also like what we're doing, which is non-traditional, right? Like we're organizing for a group that we all belong to, so like we are all people in need as much as the community we serve. What has been most meaningful and what support is still missing?
With Black Humboldt.
Or like, Takesha didn't say it, but she's also a birth worker, and which is pivotal for Black and brown people to have access to, and who doesn't want to get help from Takesha to make a baby, but I think just like in general, right? Like thinking of our area and what it needs to thrive, which I think does feed into the work you do outside of Black Humboldt too.
Yes, so I do a couple things outside of Black Humboldt. I am the community liaison. That's my 9 to 5. I work at the Housing Authority. So I work with an underserved, population of people. And my whole working career has been in the service of others. That is what I want to do for the remainder of my life and on into the next. And so me becoming a doula is just kind of an extension of me wanting to support my community. And then also me working primarily with Black and brown folks is super important to me as a Black woman and as a Black mother. That is something that is desperately needed as Black and brown folks giving birth die at 3 times higher rate of counterparts. And so that is strictly due to racism in the medical field and no other reason. No other reason. And so it is super important to me that I support my community in that way. I recently went to Atlanta and got some specialized training, whereas I also want to bring back the cultural components to birthing that were taken away from us historically. And that's also just super important to me. So I think we're figuring out, and people will figure out what is needed in the community. And then some of us will get together and go, let's figure it out together, because we know that's how you actually do it, right? By building community. And so I feel like building community together is one of the most meaningful things to do within a community. And what support is still missing? I would have to think about that. I just know if you do your part, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. That's what I think.
Yeah, let's see, support that's been most meaningful. I think that in general, and all the fight for liberation, like folks that can see outside of their own need to give, kind of like Ty is saying, have been the most meaningful. I'm sure so many of our like historical figures can point to someone that says that was like, this person was selfless in my conquest, and that's how we succeeded. And I think that's even more than allyship. So like that's a word I think lots of folks understand, but I do want to challenge folks to maybe look into what it means to be like a champion or a co-conspirator, someone that sees themselves in your struggle, not just alongside you while you're struggling. And I think Black Humboldt, explicitly about Black Humboldt, we've had some really awesome people step up and say, like, what's mine is yours. Like, one of our very first mixers, the Booklegger, they're an amazing local business, like, across the street, right? They said, you can use my bookshop. And we were like, oh, like, it's an exclusive event. And she was like, I'll leave. Like, simple. Here's the keys. Like, I'll be in the next room. And we were like, no, girl, like, sit down and join us, right? And, like, you know, so we ended up having a great evening with our comrade and making a lasting relationship. Like, and they have been so kind over the years, and people like that pop up for us all the time. And why they're memorable is because instead of focusing on what wasn't for them, they understood that there was something I needed that they maybe couldn't understand, but they understood the plight of the Black experience enough to say, I don't fully get it. Maybe I'm having like defensive tinglies, but here's the space for you to do what you need to do, and I'll just observe. And that's been really great. We have had other instances where folks are very giving, but then like reveal anti-Blackness or, you know, racist undertones that maybe because they weren't explicit, they didn't understand to also like be in the realm of racism. And so even though we don't collaborate with those people anymore, I'm hoping that we were able to have an aha moment together that they're able to like see themselves. And I think like support is just like on a systemic level. Like we will never catch up of 400 years of slavery. We will never catch up after segregation and redlining. Like, and so I'm like reparations, that's what's missing, but that's a bigger conversation because there's lots of Black families that have created generational wealth, made it out. Myself, I live in the suburbs now. I grew up in the hood. Like, that's the story we all want to take ourselves on. But it's really hard, you know? And it's not super likely when there's other, like, systematic things at hand, especially in, like, low-income areas. And so I'm like, I think the support is systematic. And we love our volunteers. I will say that's also something really meaningful. Like, volunteers help us put on Juneteenth every year. Volunteers have been showing up at the distributions. It's great. I got a bad back, and I stay lifting boxes. And so when volunteers show up to lift the boxes, it's amazing. And so I think it's like everything's a spectrum, but I think it is a very harsh line of like the scale. For my experience at Black Humboldt, at least, it's like when things are good, it's up and it's great, but we also have a lot of gaps still. Like we receive racist phone calls all the time. We receive voicemails calling us monkeys or whatever else, and a lot of things that people don't see. And so
People will come to our events and demand why they can't come to exclusive events and be angry about it.
yes, lots of angry people while we table. So if you're ever at an event and you're like, I wonder why Black Humboldt isn't here, it might have to do with that. But, you know, and I think it's taken a lot of time for us to really know what spaces are and aren't for us, as well as collaborations. And so another thing, if you've ever like sent an email to Black Humboldt and we didn't respond, it was like, we don't know you, we don't have time to get to know you just yet. But, you know, maybe now as our structuring is changing, you know, we'll be revisiting a lot of those things. But sometimes, you know, someone else messes it up for the next person, unfortunately. But I do think it goes back and forth pretty, like on a harsh line. Okay, what time is it? Okay. This is a dreamer one. And so if Black Humboldt had full resources and aligned partnerships, what would Black life in this region look like in the next 10 years? Something that I've always wanted for this area, not just for the Black community, but also like the Indigenous community. When I moved here, I was like, their street art's about to be crazy. Like, there's so many tribes in this area, and I had all this expectations for like what that looks like for Native people to still be on their sovereign lands. And then I got here and I was like, well, where is everything? Like, there's like nothing like anywhere. And this was 10 years ago, and I know they're doing like interpretive signs and different things have been popping up. But that was one thing that I was like really expecting, was like this massive murals or like patterns. And so just thinking about any community that's been siphoned being able to thrive, I'm like, I think you would just like see it. I can't help but think of like fruit trees like in downtown, you know, and like murals and or even like a little block of like Black stores, or like right there in Old Town, right? Instead of like sprinkled in weird spaces of affordable spaces.
Or Black art, like an area that was specific.
Yeah, community gardens.
Spaces to teach and learn.
Or like a Black school. That would be rad. I would send my kids there in a heartbeat.
Right.
Where just things are a little bit different. And I think it like bleeds into other non-dominant identities, right? Like if Black folks had what they needed to grow over the next 10 years, like everyone would have what they needed to grow over the next 10 years. And I think it would, you know, we'd have a charter school that mimics an Afro culture, right? Or methodology, or safe jobs, safe spaces to work. I also think that a lot of folks come here for traveling jobs or school, and then they leave. They're like, actually got what I needed,
Yes.
I'm out. But if they had what they needed to socially thrive here, I think they'd stay, right? And so over the next 10 years, we would see those 2%, 19% numbers change, right? Which would like naturally pivot what goes on here. Like I had mentioned, I'm from the Caribbean, so my stepdad mails me things like yellow plantains and chicken foot soup mix and like pigeon peas, because you can't buy pigeon peas here. But that wouldn't be the case, right? Because maybe someone else from the Caribbean would move here and stay here and open a market, right? Like a little grocery store. Or we'd have more Black businesses in general that are storefront. We have a lot of Black businesses that work out of their homes. So like you go to our directory, you're like, oh, where's this place located? Nowhere. Because they're only on the plaza on Saturdays, or, you know, so maybe those storefronts would start to look different too.
Yeah, maybe the community would get a deeper, better understanding of what other members of the community might need or want, and start providing that just because,
Right.
right? Because you want to serve your community, so it would be a good idea to just really take a good look at your community and then go from there, right? Like, what could I do to better serve you? Well, this is the kind of food that you eat. Okay, let's figure this out, right? This is the kind of stuff you need for your hair. Let's figure this out, right?
Yes, absolutely. Because when I first moved here, couldn't get my hair done nowhere. It was horrible. And I'm like, it seems so minuscule, but in a world where people like are mad at the way your hair naturally comes out of your skull,
Right.
it's like I have to actually have my hair
Right.
done so that I can have the job, because otherwise I'm unprofessional for
That's
the
right.
job that I
messy.
need to survive. So
Yes.
the cycle.
There's a lot of things.
Let's see, I think there's time for one more question. How about we ask y'all some questions? You up for a challenge? Marlon, you're next. No, I'm kidding. What is one, or actually, let's do this. What's something you heard today that sparked an aha moment for you that could turn into one practice that you bring to the community? And everyone doesn't have to answer, but if someone's like, I like when you said this, it makes me think I can do this. If you wouldn't mind sharing, we would love for the conversation to go both ways. Yeah.
I didn't even know there was a Black Humboldt. Sometimes I feel very uninformed, but I was raised in Southern California, so, you know, not too far Pennsylvania. She was right in Philadelphia working, and went to the trains and everything else, and she says, "Dad, it's so different,
Right.
you know, all these different cultures, just," so it was great just to know that there's a Black Humboldt, and it was great that you guys put out the flyer so it was available. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Truthfully, someone was like, what would Black Humboldt look like in another area? And I was like, I don't know, because it was made out of a necessity that exists in Humboldt County. And I don't think you find the same work of that like purposeful centering and exclusivity in more diverse areas.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I've lived here for 55 years or so, and what I'm hearing you say reminds me so much of the spirit in the community amongst us newcomers then. And just the old phrase of think globally and act locally is what I'm hearing you folks say. But that was what one of our mottos from that time was. And I mean, the stunning changes I've seen in this community in that time would probably surprise you. And another comment, a dear old friend who is a whole generation older than me, who came here from big cities, and she always liked that there was no black, the word ghetto was used in that time, a black ghetto here, that the African American people that live here. They were in the whole community. There wasn't a pocket.
Right. I do challenge you to learn more about like what the purpose of those ghettos, right? Like they were very purposely created for people to live in.
I grew up in a big city.
Yeah.
Well, I am a fifth-generation native. I was raised here. And so, but back in the late 50s, there was only one black student at Eureka High. And so I think it's kind of a cultural thing, that's just developed because my father before me, that generation, they had the attitude that, okay, blacks are okay in their place, but they just don't want to give them any power, blah, blah, blah. And so I think through generations, we're coming to accept things better than, it takes generational change. And I know there was, back in the time we went to the rodeos in the early 50s, there was black, a clown, and he was very good horsemanship and everything. He trick rider, all, and but they saw him as a clown when he passed away at the age of 47, very young. They just said the funny little black man. They didn't characterize all of his talents that he had or, promote that. It was just, he was a funny little black man. So I'm hoping that through the generations, and I think the college, the university here draws people. So if we can get more people to stay, like you were saying, and I don't know why we haven't had more come in, or we chased out the Chinese, we chased out everybody. I'm not sure what has caused that, why they didn't come here, whether it's lack of jobs for them or what. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think just like a social landscape will get you to a point of, I may have left the area that was like created for me and to keep me and my family in a certain place. And I've done a great due diligence of like leaving that behind. And then it's kind of like, I'm actually so socially and emotionally overwhelmed with, the politics or the social standard of a place where I'm othered, that I'd rather go back, right? Or, certain areas have become, and I think for all different races and ethnicities, like you tend to want to live near the people that share the experience that you have. And so I think we see certain cities being branded for certain types of people, because even I know, like amongst the queer community, folks have that same conversation, like, can me and my partner go live in this city safely? Black people have that same conversation, that same inner conversation, or why there was a green book, right? And that's what Black people would use to travel, because they needed to know where they could sleep, where they could drive, what's a sundown town, where will I get killed for existing, So it's like, these metrics have been used for a long time, right? As like survival of going where folks look like you or act like you or share a
And
identifier.
they'll tend to feel a little bit more safe if they get someplace and there is someone that looks like them.
So I have a question, if it's too personal, you don't have to answer it. So what was your draw to come here?
Yeah. I mean, I guess you lived here, right? I moved here specifically to escape capitalism and work in cannabis, you know, not white market cannabis, and just exist. I was here with people I knew. I was probably on one of the few farms of color, because I also didn't realize the like social aspect of the community until my son was of school age. And we kind of like came back to town, and I was like, oh, you have to go to school. And we started looking around at schools, and I started really noticing like, oh, there's no people of color here. Like, or like if there are, I don't know where they are. And I didn't know that until, yeah, I had been here for a while. And then I did end up getting married here, and really I'm like, that's why I still live here, quite frankly, is that my husband's family is here, and we have cousins and aunts and uncles and grandma. And so we were able to build a tribe. And I think that's what we were talking about. Like, that's why Black Humboldt exists.
Yeah.
So that when you move here, you know you can find Black community. You guys might not be neighbors, but you at least know there's another family with littles around my age, or another person that likes to do this, or, you know, we're trying to like build that extended family so other folks feel like they can like stay too.
Does Black Humboldt have any connection to student organizations at the university?
Yeah, I mean, before we go there, Ty, why do you still live here?
So I moved over from Mendocino County to this county because at that time, this was like a city, right, in comparison to Willits. My girlfriend moved over here to go to college, and then I decided to come over and go to school as well. I stayed here because I love this community. I even knew back then that it had a lot of potential. I started having babies, and so I'm, you know, raising children here, and that's why I stayed.
The nature too, I will say. As someone that grew up with no grass in my yard, it does not beat like living a mile from the beach. Or like inner city kid, I went to the beach maybe 5 times in my life, and I'm from Massachusetts. Like, the water is right there, you know, and it's just like things I never had: trees, air to breathe. Like, there's no train that goes by your house in the middle of the night. Like, just so many small things that in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, that's why we still live here. And yeah, we are very connected with the university. I would say more Cal Poly than CR, and not by choice, but when we were first starting Black Humboldt, we went to campus. We were like, there's no way there's not a BSU here. Like, and so we went there to meet the BSU, and we found out that there was, at that time, it was the African American Center for Student Excellence or something on campus, and so we went there to meet those folks, and it was not a lot going on. They also did not have a Black coordinator in that center at that time, which probably confused some students who were like, oh, I'm going to the African Center, and then they were like, oh, hi. But
Is this the African Center?
yeah, so we've had a long-standing relationship with them. It's since evolved. Doug Smith was here for a while, a transplant that came and revamped that center at Cal Poly to the Emojis Center, and now with Alexis Harrell. And we've always had tight knits with them because we're like, we need adults that want to build a Black Humboldt. I know I was like turned on to social justice and like Black movement as a teenager. And so I'm like, that's when you got to get them, you know, when they're fresh, they're starting their new lives. And there was also, DJ had just been murdered, David Josiah Lawson. And so students were not leaving campus. And so we were on campus all the time trying to be like, do you guys want to go bowling? Do you guys want to go to the movies? Do you guys want to hang out? And trying to just get them connected with the Black community as much as possible, especially because, you know, parents were on an all-time vigilance, you know, and Black families know you give your kids the talk about police and, you know, all that kind of stuff, especially coming up here, but something we've heard from Black families too is that they're fully not getting the full picture of what goes on at Humboldt State, or it was Humboldt State at that time, but sending their kids up here thinking that there is this community to catch them, and there wasn't, at the time. So I think we've taken that relationship very seriously in the, letting parents and families know that not just is the Emoja Center looking out for your kids, but also like Black Humboldt's looking out for your kids. We do a internship with the campus too. So like last year we had 3 Cal Poly students. This year we have 4. We have 4. And it's great. And, we try to specify to send us Black and brown students, but that will be the 3rd year that we've done that. The College Corps is what they call it. So they pay the kids, not us. We love it, or not kids, but the students.
young adults.
The young adults. We actually had some
future.
students older than me
that's right.
come work with us.
That's
And
right.
so it's been great. We love adult
students.
education. But yeah, I think that was like a starting point. And now we have a resource and education innovator because we're also trying to create relationships with the families at the elementary schools. I'm like, our Black students go through a lot in these schools, and it's really disheartening. And so trying to maintain a connection of like BSUs in the high school, but also just Black presence in the elementary schools, I think is something we started to build.
Did you still have a question?
I wanted the original question to be restated.
Yes, because no one answered it, but we would love to hear from someone. Thank you, friend. Let's see. Where was I at? Over here. Is it? Oh, I think we
Yes.
were talking, I rephrased it, that's why,
Yes.
because I was like, thinking of an aha moment you had today, which might just be a moment that got your brain thinking or helped you learn something you didn't know before. Thinking of that moment, how can that be turned into a practice of support that you can apply this month?
I want to, I'm studying specifically rurality and how it pertains to students in rural education, and sometimes forget to look at intersectionality, especially with Black methodology and rural methodology, and how you were saying, people seeking social fulfillment, cultural fulfillment, and these things, and that these historically rural places have been, or at least rural structures created, have been specifically for white residents. And that's what drives people of color, queer people out of these rural communities, because at some point they just become not safe.
Right.
So I guess that aha moment is I have to now go back to my original questions of not why is our young local rural talent leaving these rural areas, but what's not keeping them here, and what's not having these really talented young students stay within these rural areas instead of being outsourced by urban community or urban communities or urban places like the big cities and what's have you would have automatically more resources, but they keep pulling resources from these rural places.
Right.
It's good to
I love that. Please call us when you're done with your research. Because something too that's been challenging for Black Humboldt over the years is you write grants and they're like, well, what's your proof, right? And there's only so much data you can pull in general, but then you look at Humboldt County and I'm not a researcher. I went to school for art. I don't know the tools, but I have been able to notice how much we are missing from demographic data, or that Black females switch schools so often in Humboldt County, but there's never been they've never gathered that. You can see it as you're going through things, but there's no data that says this type of student struggles to maintain stagnant school presence or whatever. And I think it's a lot like our friend just mentioned of you have to have the knowledge to look through the gaps, right? And it's the arrest numbers are low. That doesn't mean Black people aren't disproportionately affected by the carceral system. It means that there's only 3 of them here, you know? And so data is like skewered all over the place. And, you know, the one thing we're always able to say is like, finally, racism has been dubbed a mental health problem or like a social health issue. And so people are able to say, okay, impacted by racism, funding, but you have to have like the data to support your experience. And the Black experience is often like not quantifiable, right? We're not like, I got spat on 4 times last year. Like, you know, like things like that aren't data. And so it's like something that is something we need in this area, I think everywhere, but particularly here. And I think you just like hit it on the head with like the way people view like rural social dynamics or data collection.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted to, you mentioned that you do have a relationship with students at Cal Poly Humboldt. I also teach out of both places, Cal Poly College and Redwoods, and I would like to make a plea for you to try to reach out to the college and the Redwoods, particularly students who are in dorms there, because they tend to be students who have come from outside of Humboldt County, and at least anecdotally, I know some of them are people of color that are in those dorms who are feeling very isolated.
Yeah.
So they may be more open to reaching out to them now, specifically to help people who do feel lost in this county because they are from outside the county.
I feel like, so we do have a lot of people that we collaborate with, and we did have a couple people that worked out there. They're not working there now. So-
We are connected with Arene from the Multicultural Center, but I do think in general, people on campus are doing a million things. So I'm like, if you would kindly also be an advocate that we could send things to, that maybe get printed and put up at the dorms, like power in numbers, having more than one. Aaliyah Dunphy? I don't know her last name, so we'll leave that part
Yes,
out. But that was
that is her
also
name.
someone who was a great
Ced was out
support.
there?
Yep.
Cedric was out there, and he would always connect and like, hey, you know, if anybody needed anything, he'd be like, Ty, you know,
Yeah.
for housing or for resources, like, so we do, I feel like we do have a good amount of collaborators that are sprinkled in specific, you know, in places, and they do connect with us, which is also very good, but also, now you guys know,
Right.
right? So you can also, there's no shame in our collaborator game.
Right.
Like, you know, like.
Or
let-
more pathways in, I
You
think
know?
is something we're looking for. Because, yeah, I would say, so we had Cedric Aaron and Kente Johnson, and
Kente.
both of them left that institution.
Right.
And Keith Flamer's leaving. He's another one of our avenues. And so you see a trend here, the Black people with the Black people. But we are open to any pathway there. Because I do know a lot of students come to CR. Yeah, I was like, community college that has dorms and sports teams. Like,
Right.
that's unique, and not a lot of them have that. So let's check at the time. I think we're over.
Can I answer your question though? 'Cause
Yes, I would love that.
asking you, but I'll say my aha moment, there's a couple. One is, you may be aware, maybe not, but you know, this area has had a rich history of immigrant groups galvanizing and forming their own associations, not necessarily exclusive, but out of necessity to try. So the Finnish, the Portuguese, the Swedes, you know, there's a huge history in Humboldt of that. White people, but nevertheless minorities that kind of had to do that. I think the thing that I think got me reflecting was just the power of exclusivity. Like creating an exclusive organization is an incredibly potent way to kind of challenge people, you know? And I think exclusivity often gets a bad rap because it's associated with things like the Ingomar Club or, you know, the Carson Mansion, like things where, oh, it's only for white men, you know, or whatever. That's one form of it. But it also, I got to see years ago at some function, public function, where Cheryl Seidner was speaking to give a WIAT kind of opening remark, and a very well-meaning white woman raised her hand and said, could you speak about some of your sacred places, you know, so I can better understand and cherish these things. And she just shut her down. She's like, no.
Yeah.
You know, like, absolutely not. That's for us, you know, that's not for you. And you know, I'm not gonna do that. And the woman's like, but, you know, and it's just, you could see the steam coming out of her ears. I mean, it's really hard for people to confront that. So there's a lot of value in that. And I applaud you for doing it, frankly. I think we need that for sure. And as far as like how I can, you know, the idea of like, yeah, we need this, so why don't you guys step up and do
Yeah.
thanks for, showing up and speaking up, and I'm glad to hear more about it.
Yeah, I appreciate
Thank
that.
you. Yeah.
And I think too, just like the tool of white supremacy has, you say like those were white people, but when they came here, they were not treated as such, right? And so that is why they created their own societies. And I also like that you brought up social clubs, because oftentimes people are like, exclusive things don't exist. And I'm like, what about the country club? Like, they didn't say it's only for this type of person, but when you
can't
sign,
get in there.
sign in and you don't have the money for the membership, or you don't fit the decorum of the membership, like, it is an exclusive space, and you have socially been okay with that exclusive space, right? It's when folks of color who are not supposed to have like self-determination decide that, okay, well, I have a club too, and I'll be over here. So I appreciate that aha moment.
So are real estate agents aware of the efforts of yours trying to make it more amenable for Black people maybe to move here?
I would believe so. We do have a directory of Black and POC realtors that, and trust me, when people are moving here, they email Black Humboldt and they're like, what's it like there? Can you recommend a realtor? This is what I do for a living. Like, do you see me meshing into this community? Because that's what folks do, right? They like, especially in this administration, they're like, where can I live that will be safe for me? And so, yes, we do have a few folks that we have listed or that we recommend to people. They're not all exclusively Black, but they are folks that we've either created relationships with and can vouch for, or fall in the realm of people of color. And so, yeah, that has been something we've thought about too.
Have you made a presentation to the Board of Realtors that they're aware of?
No, and I think that, again, like, sometimes we have to build relationships in different ways.
Say that again, yeah.
That just sometimes we have to build relationships in different ways. Like, I've done presentations to groups, and it was the worst decision I've ever made, right? Because I have to, like, mentally battle with people's defensiveness after, or, so I think intentionality is also, like, something we've had to master, because not every space, even though that's like a traditional outreach method, works for us. And someone that works at the Clark Museum, I'm not sure if we can take more questions. Okay.
I just want to make another comment. I worked at Humboldt starting in 1990, and I remember the Black students that came up for sports and talk about just lost and wondering, what am I doing here? I mean, well, they know why they were there. It's because they could afford going to college because they got a sports scholarship, but still, they had no idea what they were in for, and just really were lost. And so it's amazing how much better it is now. Or just a good friend of mine that worked for plant operations at Humboldt. He was, I believe, the only Black person at the time who was working there. And some of the stories he told me, I just couldn't believe it. So I know it's a lot better than it was. Just scary then, because there was no one to really talk with, or there was just no support.
Right.
The 1990s. So we're not talking about the 70s or Jim Crow South or anything. This is Humboldt County in the Clinton era.
I'm like, this is Humboldt County 2026.
Right.
Okay.
It was yesterday.
What do you think people talk about at the Black Humboldt Mixer? Okay, so maybe we can pose one more audience question. And we love your commentary, but folks that maybe want to engage with the question, and not having an answer is also an answer, right? Like, so what does that mean for you? Maybe there's like somewhere you need to dig. And so I'm wondering, what does accountable solidarity look like from non-Black community members that can influence the Black future that Taikisha and I shared? Yeah.
I think one of the ways is like coming here and like showing up, and Black people in Humboldt are organizing, like and there are opportunities for us to learn, and so one of the ways we can battle our own white supremacy within ourselves, because it is systemic, could be listening to more conversations and then learning and studying the ways that anti-Black racism shows up in community in Humboldt today. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I was like, we have a podcast if you don't want to listen. A lot of it is about being an artist in Humboldt. It's pretty old at this point, but I believe it's still on the internet. It's called The Black Aesthetic. And yeah, it's all about people's journey here and the different things they've experienced. And so if you do want to hear more stories like Taikisha and I have shared, I think there's like 12 or 15 episodes.
Yeah, and if you,
Black Humboldt website, and I
oh, I
apologize,
was gonna say.
not computer literate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Jay, will you go to www.blackhumboldt.com? Thank you so much. We do have a website.
Yes, and we have a full calendar of events, and you know, you can see what we're doing. You know, spaces you might want to come see about.
Oh yeah, look at my annoying pop-up I put on there. Yeah, we're having a Black Heritage Ball that will include a full like diaspora meal, 3 courses. There'll be music, entertainment, a fashion show. It is not exclusive, and there are sliding scale tickets if you are a lower income individual, but we're closing out Black History Month with basically just like a ball of what we have locally, and it should be a ball.
You got the Black Humboldt at Gmail, but is
Oh,
that
will
the
that
website
close?
too?
Oh, yeah. So our website is just www.blackhumboldt.com.
Okay.
If you type
Black
Black and
Humboldt,
Humboldt in
it'll come up.
Google,
This will come up. This will come up.
it will be us. And this
It'll
is
be
ours.
us.
We did a North Coast Perspectives many years ago. That's me and Deanna, who started the program together. James Folk, he was like an amazing host. We had so much fun doing that with him, and it tells so much, like why we're not a political organization, why we're not social justice.
Who the faces of Black Humboldt, you know, and that way, you know, you can recognize us and see us out in the community and be like, oh, hey.
Yeah, the
like, what's going
directory
on,
is there.
you know?
Just go click around.
Yeah, you can click around
It's
and see
fun.
all kinds of stuff.
Could you repeat the time of the day and the time for your?
For the ball, it is Saturday, February 28th. It's going to start at 4:45 with it's at the Warfinger building. And yeah, so you look at this Black Liberation Month, and it's busy, busy, busy. And yeah, we like to keep most of our information updated there. Just given like small staff, volunteer folks, it's like we try to keep all the information updated there because it might be hard to catch someone on the phone or anything like that. Yeah, we have a resource page, all types of stuff.
I assume you have a donation.
Yep, there's a
We love
donation
donations.
button on there.
We love a good donation.
We are a 501c3,
We love that.
so,
We love
you
that.
know, and yeah, I'm like, this work is sustained through grants and donations, absolutely. And a lot of sweat and tears of an amazing crew, so.
Yeah, and if you're ever unsure about, you know, like where can I help, where can I fit in, just ask us, right? Like, what can I do?
I have a question for Taisha. You're from out of the area?
Taikisha.
I'm
Taikisha,
Taisha.
with a K.
Taikisha.
Taikisha.
Sorry, my hearing.
That's
isn't
okay,
that
that's
great.
okay.
But I was wondering if you've had interaction with the Hoopa tribes, the Karuk tribes and things, the Indian
In,
local.
Well, down south is what, Wailaki?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have a connection. I am recently doing a lot of training because I'm a doula, so I'm doing a lot of trainings with the Aunties on the River, which is a native doula collective, and so we're working pretty closely together, cover all our bases.
Because I was wondering on the youth, I know a lot of the youth have trouble, you know, interacting once they grow up and they get into drugs and things. And is there any program that you know of to help them?
Yeah, I think For the Black community, we have the Harambe Youth Council.
Yes.
And that's a great group. And we also have the All Humble BSU, which is to connect the different BSUs at the different high schools. And I'll say that I know the Harambe Youth Council has made it a goal this year to connect with all the youth councils, because like Centro de Pueblo has one. There's a lot of youth initiatives coming out of Hoopa, from Hoopa High, and so I know that's a goal of theirs. And we do organize with each other and alongside each other, but that is about all the information I have on how that initiative is going.
I did see another hand back there.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you, as a doula, have you been working with partnership? Are you aware that they work with doulas?
I am a partnership and Medi-Cal certified doula.
Awesome.
So tell your friends.
Tell your friends.
I work for partnership, so I just was wondering if you were aware of that connection. So,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Perfect. Well, if that's it. Oh, no, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, to respond to your question,
Thank you.
I think you've already hinted at a lot of this in everything that you've been saying in the last hour. Things like, don't worry that it's not about you. Don't feel put off by, attacks on white supremacy. Things like this. I think for a lot of white Americans, this requires something of a gear change or a change in mentalities. The term is white fragility.
Yes.
And sort of checking that, but I think our young friend here put it very well already, so, but I just wanted to bring it back to your question.
Right.
That it's okay to support other groups of people and not have to take a leading role or be at the center of things or, tell people what's what. We can just quietly support.
That's right.
Absolutely.
You could just be.
And lots of people are like, where do I start? And so I will recommend Start. And there's a book, it's written by Layla Saad, and it's called Me and White Supremacy. And it's actually a workbook. And so you can read this woman's, and she's not a white woman. And so the white supremacy work transcends, white people. It's for everyone. Like America was built on white supremacy culture, right? So we all have the work of undoing our relationship with it. And so her book is so great. It's like an easy read, and every time you could do it over and over and over again, and it'd be different every single time. And she is so behind her work that she will give it to you for free on the internet. And that's how bad she wants everyone to undo their relationship with white supremacy culture. So that could be a great facilitated tool that you use. It's called Me and White Supremacy.
One historical note that may be very positive here is white supremacy and racism in general are relatively new ideas, only created about 500 years ago. The idea that people have always been tribal and always been divided against each other is false. It was created in a specific point in time for specific purposes, and it still exists today, but that also means that at some point in the future, maybe we can do without it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We're talking about those new generations.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, start your undoing relationship and see how it influences the next couple of generations of your lineage.
Absolutely.
All right, and with that, I will say thank you.